Goddess Nazca, you're a trucker man. If that noise is nostalgic for you, then welcome to this episode
of diving into Adult Swim.
There are truly only a few constants in the human experience. We all die, we all poop, and we all got scared shitless as a child because we left the TV on Cartoon Network a little bit too long, and at 10 p.m. that weird guy from Robot Chicken got on the screen and it was terrifying. Why was he so scary? Adult Swim.
Okay, no. Can you think, did you ever watch anything on Adult Swim that actually scared you?
Not really.
You can't think of a show.
I remember my mind got blown when I realized Space Ghost was an actual cartoon at first, and then I only know him from Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
No. How deep dive did you get into Adult Swim as a kid?
I don't know.
Did you ever watch Mr. Pickle?
Did Mr. Pickle come out later, though?
It's an Adult Swim.
I know, but it came out, like, way later.
It was still...
Metalocalypse.
Metalocalypse, you mean?
Metalocalypse. Super Jail.
Oh god, no! This one episode of Metalocalypse with a girl who was dying of cancer.
And? What happened?
I will show you that episode later, because that was some fucked up shit. Because she had like a Make-A-Wish thing, and like, it was messed up, okay? It was a messed up episode, just... No, I can't even describe it. It was really fun.
Love it or hate it, it has had a massive impact on American culture for the past 21 years. That's right, 21 years. This sin fest of adult animation has been rocking its way on a children's entertainment network for as long as a human being has to live to drink. But when Adult Swim debuted...
I don't know why. Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Yeah.
The episode of The Brood Witch freaked me out.
The Brood... That's really coming back in my memory. I'm trying to remember.
As the Demon Sandwich.
Oh, yes.
Adult animation wasn't like a new idea. In 1972, the X-rated film Fritz the Cats made like $90 million worldwide. You had The Simpsons, which first aired in 1989, and I think it's still going. I haven't checked in a little bit. In 2005...
It died long.
God, I can't believe... you know what's so weird to me? The Simpsons is qualified as an adult animation. I used to watch that all the time when I was a little kid with my parents.
When it came out, up until Beavis and Butthead and South Park, it was considered the most adult animation for its day.
My parents didn't think so. We literally sat there with dinner in front of the TV and we watched it all together as a family.
My mind's blown to the people that wouldn't let their kids watch The Simpsons. My mom let me watch it, and it wasn't that bad.
I can't
Versus South Park with the two buttheads.
South Park won the Peabody Award, which is insane, but it's proof that, you know, this wasn't new. But what sets apart Adult Swim from other channels? Well, I guess not channel. It's,
Metal Argentine Force, Squidbillies. Squidbillies is another one.
Squidbillies, yeah.
Programming block. But what sets it apart isn't its notable longevity or its, you know, tendency to shock audiences. It was its ability to create its own space to showcase alternative voices and ideas under one roof. Its ability to bring outsider art to the mainstream. And its ability to, for some reason, not worry about making any money while doing the first two things. Welcome to Adult Swim, one of the most important cultural touchstones of American modern television.
The history.
So before we dive into Adult Swim, and yeah, there's gonna be a lot of swimming puns in this one, we need to take a little trip into an insane world known as the 1990s. Some of you kiddos have only been alive for years that start with a 2 and a 0, so let me tell you about the 90s as an expert on the decade. Quarter-operated phone booths littered street corners, which is crazy because not...
Wait, at what year did Adult Swim first start?
I thought it was in the mid-90s. Of course, maybe its predecessor probably started in the mid-90s, and it actually did start later.
I feel like it didn't start, like, my very first experience with Adult Swim, I feel like, is when I was 11. I feel like it came out in 2021.
I feel like
2020, 2001. God, my brain.
Only were you making literal phone calls in public in boxes, but you also had to have quarters on you all the time, which is weird to me.
Quarters.
Pizza Hut was a sit-down restaurant, and they also had these really cool lamps that I cannot find for
That was nice.
the life of me. I want one so goddamn bad. Games like Dude.
After we had that accident.
Oh yeah, almost had an accident.
Well, just spinned out the truck and we almost died and I was
Doom
inconsolable.
came out on floppy disk.
Oh, wow.
and Quake were giving sexless men with no aspiration in life something to do while they whittled away. And cable TV had grown from a novelty to a necessity. Originally, cable TV was something for rich people to have to flex on the poors who were still using rabbit ears to get channels. But then in the 90s, cable TV became a giant industry generating over $1 billion in ad revenue every year. And this bizarre backdrop of prosperity and ugly culture was the perfect pressure cooker for the insanity of Adult Swim. I had to read that one off the phone because that was a really hard full sentence to say and memorize. In the early 90s, cartoons were a far cry from what we know them as today. Instead of, original shows that people know and love, it was really just mainly Hanna-Barbera reruns.
Wait, why was SpongeBob there? Did SpongeBob come out in the 90s?
Yes! I remember watching it when I used to live over in KCK before I moved to the farm. It came out in 99.
It did?
I'm
gonna have to look that up now.
No. We're looking it up right now, live. We're doing it, fuck it, we're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
Type it in. What year SpongeBob came out?
I have the keyboard right here. What year did SpongeBob come out?
July 17th of 1999.
Dang. I thought, damn, SpongeBob old.
Yeah. You didn't know
God,
that?
SpongeBob's like me.
They're SpongeBob. People were born watching SpongeBob are old enough to drink.
The most part. Hanna-Barbera, the studio that was founded by the Tom and Jerry
Right,
creators in the early 50s.
little.
And then they made a bunch of terribly animated shows like the Jetsons, Yogi Bear, Flintstones, like all those things. Fun fact, almost every Hanna-Barbera character has a collar or something around their neck in their character design because it made it easier to animate their faces by just swapping out their heads completely. Yeah, that has nothing to do with the video, but now you'll never be able to unsee it. But the rise of syndicated cable made it so Sunday cartoons were becoming less and less popular over time. The kids are drinking Surge soda and eating Future ice cream. They don't got time for no goddamn wacky races. This allowed the back catalog of Hanna-Barbera cartoons to drop in price so TBS could sweep them up, and then that eventually led to the creation of Cartoon Network in 1992. And it did pretty well. I mean, there was not a lot of places on cable TV for kids to go and watch shit, so it was filling a vacuum. However, it had one large problem that other channels did not have to deal with, and this problem is, of course, the fact that, let me see here, children are dorks who go to bed early. Pretty consistent problem across the board for TV people. So advertisers don't want to buy ad space at like 10 p.m. on Cartoon Network because literally nobody is watching that. And when you consider what other people were doing for late night TV in the 90s, you can see the advertiser's point. TV after 10 o'clock was hyper-focused on adults. Still kind of is, honestly. Major networks aired like talk shows and infomercials, and cable networks would play like risque movies or ads for phone sex, which was
porn!
Oh yeah, I remember if you ever watched Comedy Central way back in the day at night, it was always phone sex, and I guarantee none of the women looked like that.
Porn.
Girls Gone Wild.
Porn.
It was a big thing in the 90s, phone sex, which is crazy to me. I don't think I would ever see the appeal of that. I'm just happy how far we've come in the porn industry. This is actually a fun fact. The USA Network was wiling out with a program called USA Up All Night. It was hosted by Gilbert Gottfried, and it would just play heavily edited B-list porn exploitation movies all the time. Like one of them was Nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell. I'd watch that. I'd watch that right now. Even children's cable programming pioneer Nickelodeon would change their whole thing and do Nick at Night, which would be like, sitcoms from times earlier. So they would get the adult.
That always made me so mad when they switched to Nick at Night and stuff. I was like, I don't want to watch these stupid sitcoms. I want more cartoons.
Yeah, but you were supposed to go to bed though.
I'm a nighttime kid.
What was it?
Appeal without being, degenerates. Something that you will learn Adult Swim did not take. But I've been neglecting to mention one important tidbit that even the Cartoon Network executives weren't counting on. A third of Cartoon Network's watchers were adults. Weird adults, but adults nonetheless. So you got a time slot where people aren't watching, you got some weird adults that might be floating around. What do? Well, you make a cartoon show for weird adults. And
yes, I remember this.
Space Go.
I watched this when I was a kid, on days I would stay up late.
1994, Cartoon Network made a show called Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
And I have this, I don't know if this is some weird Mandela effect, but didn't they have Tenchi Muyu on there late at night? I know they had it during a tsunami, but didn't they have
At one point, I know they brought it on there. I'm not sure if it was at the start, though. I know they moved it on there.
If you don't know what this
Same
is,
as,
get excited.
same as Yu Yu Hakusho, they moved on there too.
The uncensored version, of
Yes.
course. They still had to censor the boobs, Ayaka's boobs.
And Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they brought Sailor Moon though, oddly enough.
There's an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon called Space Ghost that like literally everyone forgot about, and what they did was they take clips from that show and they would cut them up and edit them and voice them over to make a completely new show, because literally Cartoon Network did not have any money for original programming, so they had to cut corners every chance they got. The original show was about a space superhero that fought dinosaurs, which is the most 60s fever dream coke bender
Those were not
idea.
dinosaurs, those were like playing mantis things.
Yeah, but still, this was so 60s.
Yay.
I've ever heard. So then they took that character and put it in a talk show setting, which just by the premise alone is hilarious, I think. And since
Yeah.
Cartoon Network did not have an original content budget, they had to funnel advertising budget into the show itself. Like they couldn't advertise Cartoon Network on other channels. They just had to put that money into Space Ghost Coast to Coast. And personally, I think it was worth it, and historically it turned out to be, but a lot of people were against the show originally. It was way before its time with extremely well-written jokes and absurdist humor, and it also got a bunch of real-life celebrities to go on the show in a weird meta talk show kind of thing. I mean, to get the vibe of the show, all you have to
This was B-tubing before V-tubing.
You're right! This was the original VTube!
Yes.
do is see the time Conan O'Brien
goodness.
went on.
By the way, did you know the guy that did the voice of Space Ghost? They also did the Space Ghost Coast to Coast. He actually passed away here recently.
Oh,
He was old, though.
yeah.
And instead of Space Ghost interviewing him, Space Ghost just like investigated an ant for 10 minutes straight while Conan just dealt with no one talking to him.
I think this show is very bad.
Okay.
And should be stopped.
Oh, okay.
I think you're a bad person, and don't take this the wrong way.
All right.
Just next level stuff. just really next level shit. The show quickly gained a cult following, and it was showing some promise. So the executives were like, okay, what else can we do? This is kind of working. And they were like, I don't know, let's try...
I've never thought of that. Space Coast was literally the very first VTuber. Cowboy Bebop. Yes, when
So
we
it's peak.
when we start pushing in the animus.
Anime might work. In the 90s, a lot of people, no one cared about anime in the 90s, really, at all. Some people did, but they were this. So the mainstream appeal of anime was not there at all. So licensing was cheap. So they were like, screw it, throw it up there. And suddenly this became a staple of Channel 2 during the nighttime segment, which led to the 1997 block Toonami, which you should know about.
Oh, Ryoko. What's the name of all these animes?
Okay. Big O.
Big O.
Let's see. That's Outlaw Star.
Outlaw Star.
Oh, Hamtaro.
I don't know what these are, one down here.
I don't
Oh,
know.
no, they're just hugging him. Yu Yu Hakusho, Transformers, Gundam.
Yeah, I think she's Gundam. That's from G.I. Joe, I think. G.I. Joe animation.
What's this?
Oh, I think that's Saint Seiya.
Saint
I
Seiya.
see Sailor Moon over there.
Both wrong.
Oh, we're wrong. What is it?
Roman Warriors.
Ronin Warriors. Okay, thanks, Lou.
It's iconic, and it showed a lot of kids who had never had experience.
To be fair, because of Toonami, anime would not be as big in the West or in general.
And it wasn't even the Adult Swim Toonami. It was the original Toonami that was on during the daytime.
And then I remember when I really started watching Adult Swim. Like there was I remember when I first watched it was Fully Cooley, Trigun, Blue Gender, and there was one other one I can't think off the top of my head.
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop came out.
You know, the first time I watched Adult Swim, it wasn't even Toonami yet. It was just Adult Swim anime that they had on there. It wasn't officially Toonami yet. It was Inuyasha.
Inuyasha.
Inuyasha was like one of the first ones. I believe
Kids
that
watching
came out in
anime before
2001.
things like Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon and Gundam Wing, all these shows that everyone loves now. So the executives all get together and talk to Mike Lazo, the creator of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and they say, hey, listen, we're starting to fuck with the vision a little bit, okay? We think we can turn this garbage time slot into something hot and bothered with the right direction. And Mike was like, let me hop in the kitchen. Let me see what I can cook up real quick. Of course, the ad sales team at Cartoon Network was resistant to it because they were like, you know, this is a cartoon children's network and you're selling really adult shows. How are we supposed to pitch this? And they had a good point, but Lazo, I don't know which one it is, but he had a year to pull this off. So, you know, who's to say he's even going to get it done? Who knows if he can pull this off? A small group of people, headed by Lazo, started working around the clock for a thing that would eventually become Adult Swim. None of them, mind you, with a history of animation in their background. None of them had that. What they did have was a shared vision of weird shit and the ability to work really...
Is that why they had this one random-ass show where it was made literally in, like, paint studio? Do you remember that? It had, like, this really ugly rat, and it was, like, made out of paint.
It was all the ads.
It was all the ads.
really hard for long hours. A lot of them had full-time jobs at a Cartoon Network, and they also had another full-time job, which was creating Adult Swim. And there was no, like, offices for the Adult Swim team, so they had to do whatever they could, wherever they could.
Ghost in the Shell. Oh.
Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex, was also on Adult Swim.
Oh my god.
I never got into Ghost in the Shell, but I loved its opening. Its opening was just one of the best anime openings, but I could never get into it for whatever reason.
They were editing footage in broom closets and using old PCs that no one else was using because that's all they had at the time. And also, even though Cartoon Network gave Adult Swim the green light, no one as a company was really happy about it. Shows like Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, and C-Lab 2020.
Oh yeah.
C-Lab 2020.
Yes.
If you're
One, which were also
for me, you better check under the sea, 'cause that is where you'll find me, underneath the sea.
I remember that.
Love underneath the water. Remember that was the opening.
Shows they derived from C-Lab 2020 and Birdman.
Oh yeah, Birdman.
Hanna-Barbera shows that, like, you know, no one was thinking about anymore, so they gave it the old Space Ghost treatment and just kind of changed things about it and remixed it. Well, these remixes actually ended up upsetting the original creators of the show because they didn't say you could do that, and the original shows were like fun kids cartoons.
Oh my gosh, it's like AI nowadays, except done with people.
On shitty so computers on Windows 98.
See? We've been here before, y'all!
We're not at all.
Try to get word to my mother. Man, your mother.
Alex Toth, man in C-Labs, was like
Cyborg 009.
Oh yes!
I don't remember seeing that one.
God. Oh, Kikaidier. Kikaidier was one of my favorites.
Yo, stop. Please stop. Which I understand, but how can you watch this clip from C-Lab and tell me it's not worth it?
Dude, check me out. I'm like a little otter. A sexy little otter. Damn.
I quote this daily. No one knows what I'm talking about, but I am a sexy little otter. And it's not just the creators. People inside the company were confused as hell as to what is going on. Executives still fully didn't understand what the appeal or even the base humor of these shows actually were. The ad teams still didn't know how to pitch these shows to advertisers because I personally wouldn't know how to do that. And once again, people were editing footage in closets. So, you know, the work-to-life balance was not great. But despite the crazy working conditions and initial confusion, the trials and tribulations were over, and Adult Swim finally debuted on September 2nd, 2001.
Wait.
A week before 9/11. Oh my effing god.
No. I was right. I told you Adult Swim came out in 2001. I called it. I knew it. Because I remember they were advertising for Inuyasha on there, and that's what initially got me interested in watching it. And it was
yes.
It was in 2001. I remember that. That's probably why I couldn't care less about 9/11. I was too invested in this.
Well, there's more trials and tribulations coming up, but they were out of Adult Swim's control. They couldn't really do anything about it.
Trinity Blood.
Trinity Blood! Yes! Oh, that poor anime. You know the creator died before he finished it? Trinity Blood. That was such a good one. I love that one.
So the red carpet wasn't exactly laid out for Adult Swim's premiere, which makes sense because it aired at midnight, and people don't really care about new programming blocks. Like, looking back on it, yeah, it's Adult Swim, it's a big deal, but like, CBS is like, we're running new who gives a fuck? No one's tuning in for that. But it was a weird start, like, it was a slow roll, like, it was
Boondocks.
Hey, here's Adult Swim completely finished, enjoy it, we're done making.
I don't know what it is about Super Jail, but Lou and I loved watching that. It was just so mindfuckeringly interesting.
Mind-fuckerly interesting.
Unfrancolly
It was a slow rollout. It was testing the waters of the late night audiences. On the first night at midnight, they just
Home
played
Movies.
the first episode
Yes.
of Home Movies, which is a fantastic show, but then it kind of tapered off after that. And then a few months down the line, they...
Oh.
Squibbilly.
Do you remember that one?
This one?
Yeah.
I don't know it, no.
I don't remember what it was called. Chat, help me out. I totally watched this one. I like this one. I don't remember what it was called.
Also soft
Metalocalypse.
launched a couple other shows, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force and other
Yes.
popular Adult Swim cartoons. And they did this by airing it unannounced at 4 a.m. in December of 2001. So I don't know if they don't want people to see these things, but whatever. And then finally, after a
That's how I watched it. I
What?
woke up early.
Oh.
5-month delay, Adult Swim officially premiered
Oh,
on
Did you break something?
did someone get disconnect? There we go.
What happened?
Don't
Labor
know.
Day weekend, which is crazy
Weird.
because people are doing shit on Labor Day weekend. No one is whatever. Whatever. Despite everything I just said, Adult Swim somehow managed to grow exponentially throughout its first year. And this is in spite of the fact that all the advertising promoting Adult Swim
Banana.
was not showing people why they should watch it.
Oh, I
it was
hated
to
that
prove to
one.
people that
Yeah.
children shouldn't. Which is a wild way to handle this. But the explicit anti-advertising campaign actually really worked, and it kind of set the precedent for what the channel was going to be for the rest of its life. It nailed the cover.
I never understood what was the point of all those little text.
Drugs.
Yeah. I never even
Of
bothered
it an
reading
18
it.
to
I
34
didn't even
age
care.
bracket,
Like,
and
hurry up
that's
and get
my
to the
people,
show.
baby. That's what I work for. Advertisers still had no goddamn clue what was going on with these oddball shows, but all they knew was they wanted a piece of it, baby, because people are watching it. And Adult Swim soon expanded to
Yes.
multiple nights with more original programming and more anime. They're always going to put more anime in this puppy. And it also became a haven for animated shows that were canceled by their original networks. Futurama and Family Guy both were canceled by Fox, and then they found a new life on Adult Swim, which,
Yeah.
gave it enough reputation
Futurama
and
too?
viewership to start those
Futurama was canceled, in I forget when it was canceled, but they brought it back.
You know what? They also probably picked up some sad animes too, because there was one that they had on there that didn't last very long at all, called Pilot Candidate.
Huh.
That I remembered. I was really interested in it, and then it just kind of disappeared.
shows back over again. And if you take nothing out of this video, please understand that the only reason why Futurama continued to go was because of Adult Swim. So that's all you got to know about this channel and why it's so great. And the popularity of these X-Network
Toonami
shows
was a
brought a
hero.
lot of people to
Toonami was...
Mission Hills, that's what it's called.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for showing me a
Robot
thing.
Chicken.
Robot Chicken. Oh, Oblongs. Do you remember that one?
Oblongs, no.
It was about the a disabled family, I guess.
Oh. Venture Brothers. I like how the one main lady has got the deepest voice I've ever heard.
Ever since that one VTuber that we watch makes me think of her.
to the channel. And they were programmed earlier into the Adult Swim block, so like it was a buffer between children's cartoons and the weird shit that you're going to see later on. But actually, the crazy thing is the original...
Oh, there we go.
Fully Cooley.
Fully Cooley. Mike Tyson. I didn't really care. That's 12-ounce mouse.
12-ounce mouse.
That was that shit one.
I've never seen this one.
Oh, Milk Chan.
Milk Chan.
I never really watched it myself, but I remember it. It was kind of... Also the same with Lucy, a daughter of the devil or whatever over there.
Oh.
Programming that had all the crazy stuff in it, that became the main appeal of the channel, which nobody expected. You got Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which came from when the creator heard a story about how a fast food restaurant was putting together pieces of old burgers to sell to people like they were new. That's how this show started. The show has an anthropomorphic milkshake, a box of fries, and a wad of meat, known as Meat Wad. They live in a suburban neighborhood, they fight aliens, and they live next to a perverted piece of shit named Carl. That's the premise of the show. It was a hit almost in spite of itself. It tried so hard to make people not like it. It was thought to be such an unwatchable show that network executives said that maybe let's make them detectives. Make them detectives. People will like that more. It makes a little bit more sense. And I guess, I mean, the show really had no plot to begin with, so if you give it a little something to go on, I guess it
so
could make people
random.
watch it, but they were detectives for 3 episodes. And then
And this was before YouTube and TikTok.
This was definitely the original. This was definitely original before
Original
internet
brain
stuff.
rot.
Yes. This was the original brain rot, and now we've brought
they
it
dropped
into
that premise
more.
immediately and never went back to it. Where else are you gonna find this kind of stuff besides Adult Swim? The network begged for them to change the voice of Meatwad because no one can understand him when he talks.
Oh yeah.
Literally, viewers were writing in saying,
Can't.
am I going crazy? I can't understand what this guy is saying, and they refused. The writers refused to do that. The creators also insisted that the voice of Master Shake, Dana Snyder, should get absolutely hammered for his audition tape to get the role, and he did, and he got the role. All of this combined made Aqua Teen Hunger Force the flagship show of the channel for years to come. We have the Venture Bros, which is a really important show if you look into it a little bit. It was a parody of the 60s style superhero family shows like Johnny Quest, but after 7 seasons, it morphed into an entirely different thing altogether. Venture Bros was one of the first cartoon shows that adopted the golden age of television rules in terms of writing and plot, while other cartoon shows had short stories and very little continuity in terms of, like, you know, like The Simpsons always wear the same shirt and everything goes back to normal at the end of the episode. Venture Bros created a cast of pop culture obsessed superheroes that, like, fought generational trauma that built upon itself. But the show would constantly take the audience expectations and turn them on their head, because like one episode they would maybe cover the topic of toxic masculinity and how much that can harm somebody, and then the next episode they'll bring in Brick Frog, who's a guy who dresses up like a frog and throws bricks at people.
Brick Frog! Thank you!
Brick Frog.
Oh.
Part of the success of Venture Bros was the fact that it was only written by 2 people. There was no writer's room for this show. And that significantly slowed down the production of the show because it took 14 years to make 7 seasons, which is a bad turnaround rate. But
I did not know it was written by only 2 people.
That's actually pretty good when you stop to think about it.
I know, because it had such an intricate plot to it. And such pretty good dialogue.
It a mind meld of consistent, thoroughly thought out script writing that the creators called Unibrain. Instead of a writer's room where, you know, comedy writers are fighting over who gets their joke in there and it's not really about who, you know, the characters or the plot, Venture Bros became an honest expression of a very particular type of nerdy obsessive. The exact type of person who is up at 3 a.m. and watching cartoons. So it worked out perfectly. But as much as Adult Swim nailed it with their adult cartoons, things got weirder over time. They switched the script a little bit by including live action programming to their adult cartoon block. The surreal satire Tim and Eric's Awesome Show.
That is when I was angry. That's when I got angry. Whenever they introduced live action stuff. Whenever that shit came on, I was like, checking out. I'm gonna try to find something else to do or watch. I always hated that. Don't forget the Adult Swim album. I vaguely think I know what you're talking about. But it's not
Great job, and the Eric Andre Show brought a whole new brand of anti-comedy and cringe humor to people who have never seen that shit before. The editing style and surreal sense of humor of these shows created a home for offbeat performers to experiment and turn indie comics into influential voices in mainstream comedy. Without Adult Swim, someone like Eric Andre would still be pretending to be a caveman at Geico live events. And speaking of oddball people that no one else is going to give a shot to, Adult Swim also did live action things that they like to call infomercials. They were not infomercials. These shows usually aired at 4 a.m. with no warning, no title card. They would just pretend to be commercials, or they wouldn't even pretend to be commercials. This is something I'm really passionate about. I love these things. Sometimes Adult Swim humor was the fact that there was no humor. Like, it was more about all the parts being not funny that made the whole bit hilarious. If you stumbled upon one of these infomercials at 4 a.m. and you had a little dribble of mental illness in your brain, you'd wake up with poopy socks in a hospital the next morning. We have unedited footage of a bear, which starts out like, you know, an unedited footage of a bear, and then it breaks into an...
Anytime that those live action stuff came on, I was always mad. It's like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch these people be stupid. I want to watch the anime.
Infomercial about anti-allergy medication and becomes a horrifying example of doppelgangers and I guess the big pharmaceutical industry. We have Too Many Cooks, which starts like a 90s comedy sitcom and then it devolves horribly. It's terrifying. And then we have There Are People in This House, which is my favorite thing I've ever seen in my entire life. If you have the time, jump into the ARG if There Are People in This House. It seems like it doesn't make sense. It makes a lot of sense and it's horrifying. Wham City Comedy made most of these, and Adult Swim is just doing stuff like this because they can, and it's still working. Like, imagine TBS doing something like this. Imagine MSNBC throwing on a horrifying bear video. They'd get shut down. Adult Swim doesn't care though, baby. What other channel are you gonna get stuff like this? You won't find it anywhere else. Adult Swim is in a league of its own.
Outcome.
Adult Swim didn't reinvent the wheel, but they did create something wholly unique. A mainstream place where animation for adults and subversive comedy could grow. It would be impossible to accurately measure the pop culture influence that Adult Swim has had on the American public, or the world, for that matter. And that's
Is it sad that it took me this long to realize that AS stand for Adult Swim?
How, like, just now?
Just now. I never realized that.
Well, you say to be a good VTuber, you have to be a little bit retarded.
I am super boo.
It's because it's bigger than the sum of
me.
its parts. You can draw parallels between Adult Swim's original programming and the biggest adult animated shows right now, like Bob's Burgers or BoJack Horseman. Or you could find parallels between the surrealist comedy of Tim Heidecker and Eric Andre into shows like I Think You Should Leave. That had probably had a huge influence. There was countless writers, producers, animators that came out of Adult Swim or came into Adult Swim, which changed the landscape forever. But altogether, Adult Swim was mostly just a vibe. It was just a vibe that took America.
Don't judge me! Don't judge me, Loki Doki Dobo! I'm slow.
The brand exuded a feeling that anything could happen on this channel at any time. It had weird but fantastic self-referential bumpers, played insane April Fool's jokes on its viewers, and arguably brought anime into America's mainstream. I want to bring that up once again.
The April Fool's joke. Wait, go back one. I showed a bunch of anime. We gotta name the anime.
That anything could happen on this channel at any time. It had weird but fantastic self-referential bumpers, played insane April Fool's jokes on its viewers, and arguably brought anime into America's mainstream.
I'm pausing it. Okay. We'll start from the bottom here. What's that one? Bottom.
Bottom, which one?
That one.
Shin-chan.
Shin-chan.
I never watched that. Big O got
It was
fully
funny.
coolly.
Big O, fully coolly. Bleach! Samurai Champloo. Yu Yu Hakusho. I hated Eureka 7. That one can go burn. Inuyasha, Blood Plus, Lupin the Third, Paranoia Agents, Outlaw Star, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, and Trigun. Not to mention, at the very top here, we got Full Metal Alchemist.
Am I gonna mention
Yeah.
Okay, you want to hear the story?
alone, I'm slow.
I never watched Full Metal Alchemist until about 4 years ago, and I'm 35. Mm-hmm. You want to hear why I watched Full Metal Alchemist? Because I got sick with COVID and I had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yep, when we had back into COVID time, you were able to just sit there and binge watch Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
And the movie.
I
literally binged that whole shit in a span of like 2 weeks.
While missing it while growing up.
I want to bring that up once again. I really think Adult Swim was a big part of that. It turned TV into an art form that commented on TV itself, which no one was doing back then. It's a place where a show like Robot Chicken that was rejected by Mad TV, Saturday Night Live, and Comedy Central could end up winning two Emmy Awards. And most importantly, to me, Adult Swim is a channel that's willing to take risks on creators who came from the internet. And no one else is able to do that. No other channel is doing that. I was raised on YouTube and Newgrounds, and watching people that I've been watching since I was a wee little tot get full shows on Adult Swim makes me want to cry. It makes me so happy. If you started on the internet, the industry as a whole probably looks down upon you and doesn't think you're a real artist. Then Adult Swim said, let's take a shot on it, and now we have Rick and Morty. We have Smiling Friends. We have Haha You Clowns. We have Crystal Fantasy. Literally all the shit Jack Stauber is doing. Like, it's really important to the culture what Adult Swim is doing. Streaming has completely disrupted the entertainment industry, but Adult Swim is something that could not be put into a simple box. Now entering its 3rd decade on television, Adult Swim is
Wait, is Adult Swim still around?
Think so.
I thought it got canceled.
It got canceled like the way Robot Chicken gets canceled.
Where it's still around.
Didn't you idiots get canceled?
Wait, but Robot Chicken is officially canceled.
Probably the most popular it ever has been.
Robot Chicken's been gone for a while.
I gotta look that up now.
Have you heard of a new
And I
season
think I
of
know
Robot
why.
Chicken?
Despite what everyone thinks in this industry, good art is good art. And even though it's not advertised...
Wait! So you're telling me we could potentially have new episodes of Robot Chicken we've never seen before?
We have to look it up.
We have to look that up now.
Eureka 7.
Eureka 7, that one episode threw me off. She said they're my kids and they look like the crew members. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I just really despised Eureka 7. That was one anime I did not like, and I can't even explain why anymore.
are friendly. If you build it, they will come. And then when you have the people there, you can sell them a Trump coin at 3 a.m. or whatever the hell they run ads for on that channel. New videos every Saturday, maybe one on Wednesday. There's a...
Alright, so that was our look back in our...
Thank you for joining us for this stream. I think we're gonna go ahead call it.
You want to call it?
Yes, call it. Thank you all for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It would make me very happy. Kiss, kiss, hug, hug.